I hated him. Those three words defined the career of Christopher Pallies, the man the world knew as King Kong Bundy. They echoed through every shoot interview he gave in his later years. They colored every memory of his time in the ring. They shaped the way he looked back on a career that should have been legendary, but instead became a monument to bitterness and rage. Bundy did not just dislike certain wrestlers. He carried grudges like weapons. He nursed resentments like old wounds that never healed. And by the end, those hatreds consumed him more completely than any opponent ever could. This is the story of 10 figures who drew the fury of the walking condominium. 10 names that made his blood boil. 10 people who represented everything Bundy believed was wrong with professional wrestling. From tag team partners who betrayed him to corporate titans who crushed his dreams, each entry reveals another layer of a man who let anger define his entire existence. This is not a celebration. This is a tragedy. The tragedy of a monster who destroyed himself from within. Number 10 on Bundy's list of hatred brings us to WrestleMania 3, the biggest wrestling event of all time. 93,000 fans packed the Pontiac Silverdome. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant prepared for their legendary clash. And King Kong Bundy, the man who had headlined WrestleMania just 1 year earlier, found himself in a comedy match with midget wrestlers. His partners that night were Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook, two men half his size, two performers working in a novelty division, two symbols of how far Bundy had fallen in just 12 months. Bundy's hatred for Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook was not personal. He had no individual grudge against either man, but they represented something far worse than personal betrayal. They represented creative humiliation. They symbolized the moment when the WWF booking committee decided that King Kong Bundy, the 500-pound monster who had challenged for the world championship inside a steel cage, was now best suited for comedy spots and carnival attractions. The match itself was designed as light entertainment. Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook faced off against Hillbilly Jim and two other little people, the Haiti Kid and Little Beaver. The crowd was supposed to laugh. They were supposed to enjoy the spectacle of giants and tiny performers working together in choreographed chaos. But Bundy was not laughing. Inside that ring, his fury built with every passing second. When the match began spiraling out of control, when Little Beaver repeatedly antagonized him, something inside Bundy snapped. He grabbed the diminutive performer and slammed him to the mat with genuine violence. Then he dropped a massive elbow across Beaver's body, drawing an immediate disqualification. The attack was real, the anger was real, and the consequences were immediate. Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook, his own partners, turned on him. They attacked Bundy alongside their opponents. They made it clear that even in the world of sports entertainment, there were lines you did not cross. Bundy had crossed them all. Years later, Bundy would look back on that night with seething resentment. Not at Little Tokyo or Lord Littlebrook themselves, but at what they represented. They were collateral damage in his war against the WWF creative team. They were unwitting symbols of his decline. From main eventing WrestleMania 2 to wrestling in a comedy match at WrestleMania 3, Bundy's fall had been swift and absolute, and his partners that night, two performers just trying to earn a living in a difficult business, became forever associated in his mind with the worst humiliation of his career. The bitterness ran deep. Every time Bundy thought about WrestleMania 3, he remembered standing in that ring with performers who represented everything he was not supposed to be. He was a monster. He was a threat. He was supposed to inspire fear. Instead, he was part of a sideshow attraction. Number 9 takes us deeper into that same WrestleMania 3 nightmare. Little Beaver was not just another performer in that match. He became the focal point of Bundy's rage. The moment when years of frustration erupted into violence that shocked even the jaded wrestling audience. Little Beaver was a veteran of the midget wrestling circuit. He had worked hundreds of matches. He understood the business. But on that night in Pontiac, he became the target of genuine fury from a man who had reached his breaking point. The attack was not planned. The violence was not scripted to that degree. When Bundy grabbed Little Beaver and drove him into the canvas, when he followed up with that crushing elbow drop, he was not playing a character. He was expressing authentic rage at a business that had degraded him. Little Beaver represented everything Bundy despised about his current position. Here was a man who once stood across the ring from Hulk Hogan in front of millions. Here was a performer who believed he deserved respect as a legitimate monster heel, and instead, he was being booked to lose his temper at a performer 1/3 his size in a match designed to make children laugh. laugh. The hatred Bundy felt was not directed at Little Beaver personally, it was aimed at the booking committee, at Vince McMahon, at the entire corporate structure that had decided King Kong Bundy was now comedy relief rather than a credible threat. But Little Beaver was there in the ring. He was small, he was vulnerable, and when Bundy's control finally shattered, Beaver paid the price. The disqualification that followed was almost meaningless. Bundy had already lost everything that mattered: his credibility, his main event status, his dignity. The attack on Little Beaver was not about winning or losing a match. It was about a desperate attempt to reclaim some fragment of the monster persona that had once made him special. It was about showing the world that underneath the comedy booking, underneath the humiliating storylines, there was still something dangerous and real. But all it showed was a man drowning in bitterness, lashing out at the easiest target available. The incident became infamous. People talked about it for years, but not in the way Bundy wanted. They did not see a monster reasserting his dominance. They saw a bitter wrestler taking his frustrations out on someone who could not fight back. They saw unprofessionalism. They saw a career in freefall, and Bundy knew it. That knowledge made the hatred burn even hotter, because the attack on Little Beaver was supposed to be his moment of rebellion, his refusal to accept what the business had turned him into. Instead, it became just another humiliation, another reason for people to shake their heads and move on to the next match. Number 8 brings us to Andre the Giant, but not the Andre that most fans remember. This was Andre as the Giant Machine, hidden behind a mask as part of one of the strangest storylines in WWF history. In 1986, fresh off his WrestleMania 2 main event, Bundy found himself thrust into a feud with the Machines. This stable consisted of Andre the Giant, Bill Eadie, and Blackjack Mulligan, all wrestling under masks and pretending to be different performers. The storyline premise was simple. Bundy and his partner, Big John Studd, had to unmask Andre and prove he was the Giant Machine, which would result in Andre's suspension from the WWF. It should have been a brief angle, a few weeks of television, a big blow-off match. Instead, it dragged on for months. Throughout the latter half of 1986, Bundy and Studd chased the Machines around the circuit, repeatedly failing to unmask them, repeatedly looking ineffective and foolish. The booking was stagnant, the crowds grew tired, and Bundy felt his value dropping with every repetitive match and segment. The frustration was compounded by Andre's declining health. The Giant was suffering from severe back problems and acromegaly complications. His mobility was limited. His active involvement in matches was minimal. This meant that Bundy and Studd were often working with the other Machines while Andre stood on the apron, visible but untouchable, the focus of the entire angle but barely participating in the actual wrestling. Bundy's resentment toward this version of Andre was not about the man himself. Andre the Giant was a legend. Everyone in the business respected him, but the Giant Machine gimmick represented everything wrong with Bundy's position after WrestleMania 2. He was trapped in a creative dead end. He was working angles designed to protect a diminished superstar rather than elevate new main event talent. He was being positioned as an ineffective heel who could never accomplish his simple objective. Month after month, the chase continued. Month after month, Bundy and Studd came up empty, and month after month, Bundy watched his credibility erode. He had gone from challenging for the World Championship in a steel cage to playing second fiddle in a comedy-tinged angle built around masks and kayfabe suspension rules. The hatred Bundy felt was directed at the booking itself, at the creative stagnation, at the realization that his main event run had lasted exactly one match, and now he was being used as filler while the WWF figured out what to do with Andre. The Giant Machine feud was not the worst humiliation Bundy would suffer. That was still to come at WrestleMania 3, but it was the beginning of his understanding that the company did not see him as a long-term main event player. He was a supporting character in someone else's story, and that realization planted seeds of bitterness that would grow for the rest of his life. Every television appearance felt like another nail in the coffin of his credibility. Every failed attempt to unmask the Giant Machine reinforced the idea that Bundy was not a serious threat. He was a comedy heel now, a buffoon who could not complete a simple task despite having months to do it. The anger built slowly but steadily, and by the time the feud finally ended, Bundy's view of his position in the company had fundamentally changed. He no longer believed the WWF valued him as a main event talent. He saw himself as expendable, as filler, as someone the bookers could throw into whatever angle needed bodies, regardless of whether it made sense for his character or his career trajectory. Number 7 takes us back to WrestleMania 1, to a match that lasted only 9 seconds, but left scars that endured for decades. SD Jones, known as Special Delivery Jones, was a veteran performer with years of experience. On March 31st, 1985, at Madison Square Garden, he stepped into the ring with King Kong Bundy for what was supposed to be the ultimate showcase of Bundy's monster persona. The match was designed as a squash. Bundy would destroy Jones quickly and decisively, then demand a 5-count pin instead of the traditional 3. This would establish Bundy as an unstoppable force, setting him up for his eventual feud with Hulk Hogan. The match went according to plan on the surface. Bundy dominated. The referee counted to 5. The crowd reacted appropriately, but backstage, Bundy was furious. He believed that SD Jones had not performed to the level required. According to Bundy, Jones hated doing the match. He was reluctant to sell the beating convincingly. He did not commit fully to making Bundy look devastating. For a wrestler whose entire gimmick depended on appearing legitimately dangerous, this was unforgivable. Bundy claimed he lost all respect for Jones that night. In professional wrestling, success requires cooperation. Both performers must commit to the story being told. The opponent's job in a squash match is critical. They must sell the attacks as legitimate. They must make the dominant wrestler look powerful. They must sacrifice their own pride for the good of the angle. Bundy believed Jones failed in this responsibility, whether from pride, from concern about how a quick loss would affect his own standing, or from simple lack of enthusiasm. Jones had not delivered the performance Bundy needed, and Bundy never forgave him. This grudge reveals something important about Bundy's mindset. He understood that wrestling was collaborative. He knew that his success depended on his opponent's willingness to make him look good. When he felt that cooperation was lacking, when he believed someone was protecting their own ego instead of serving the business, his anger was absolute, permanent. The 9-second squash at WrestleMania 1 should have been a career-defining moment. It should have been the launch pad that sent Bundy into the stratosphere. Instead, in his mind, it was tainted by an opponent who did not care enough to make it special. Years later, when Bundy gave shoot interviews and talked about his career, he always came back to that moment. He always mentioned SD Jones. He always expressed his disappointment. The grudge never faded. The resentment never diminished. Because in Bundy's worldview, Jones had stolen something from him. He had taken what should have been a perfect moment and made it imperfect. And in a career filled with disappointments and frustrations, that original sin at WrestleMania 1 became symbolic of everything that went wrong afterward. Number 6 brings us to Macho Man Randy Savage, and here the hatred becomes deeply personal. Bundy's grudge against Savage dated back to their time together in Angelo Paffo's International Championship Wrestling, a regional promotion that operated outside the traditional territory system. ICW was rough, the pay was inconsistent, the working conditions were challenging, and in that high-pressure environment, Bundy witnessed something he never forgot. According to Bundy's later interviews, Randy Savage was caught shoplifting during their time in ICW. Bundy did not just remember this incident. Decades later, long after both men had achieved fame in the WWF, long after Savage had become one of the most recognizable wrestlers in the world, Bundy publicly aired this story. He detailed Savage's alleged theft. He used it to attack Savage's character. He weaponized a private moment of weakness to delegitimize everything Savage had accomplished. This was not professional criticism. This was personal destruction. The decision to expose such a damaging story reveals the depth of Bundy's contempt. It suggests that something happened between them in ICW that went beyond normal professional rivalry. Perhaps Savage wronged Bundy in some way. Perhaps there was a betrayal or a slight that Bundy never forgave. Or perhaps Bundy simply carried grudges with such intensity that no amount of time could diminish them. Whatever the root cause, Bundy's willingness to publicly humiliate Savage decades after the fact shows a man consumed by bitterness. He was not content to let old wounds heal. He wanted revenge. He wanted to hurt Savage's reputation. He wanted everyone to know that beneath the colorful tights and the championship belts, there was a man who had once been caught stealing. The hatred here was pure and undiluted. This was not about booking decisions or creative direction. This was about personal contempt. Bundy carried heat with Randy Savage that never cooled. And when given the platform of shoot interviews, when given the opportunity to settle old scores publicly, he did not hesitate. He destroyed Savage's reputation with a single anecdote, proving that in Bundy's world, grudges never died. They just waited for the right moment to strike. The fact that Savage could not defend himself, that the story came out in the interviews where Savage had no opportunity to respond, made it even more cruel. Bundy was not interested in a fair fight. He was interested in damage, in punishment, in making sure that everyone knew he had not forgotten. The years between ICW and those shoot interviews had not mellowed him. They had not given him perspective or forgiveness. They had only given him a platform to amplify his hatred and spread it to a wider audience. Number 5 marks a shift in Bundy's hatred. Up to this point, his grudges had been personal or based on specific incidents. But with Shawn Michaels, the hatred became philosophical. Michaels represented everything Bundy believed was wrong with professional wrestling. He was small, he was athletic, he was charismatic. And when he became WWF champion in the mid-90s, Bundy saw it as confirmation that the business had lost its way. Bundy came from an era when size mattered, when physical presence determined main event status, when the world champion had to look like he could legitimately defeat anyone. Hulk Hogan was 6'7". Andre the Giant was enormous. Even Randy Savage, while not a giant, had an intensity and presence that filled arenas. But Shawn Michaels was different. He was 6 feet tall and under 230 pounds. He relied on speed and technical skill. He was the Heartbreak Kid, a pretty boy who posed and danced. And when he won the WWF Championship, Bundy was disgusted. He believed Michaels' title reign marked the advent of the downfall of the business. Those were his exact words. Not just a bad choice, not just a questionable booking decision, the actual beginning of professional wrestling's decline. In Bundy's view, Michaels did not look like a grown man. He did not have the physical credibility to be world champion. His success represented the triumph of corporate entertainment over legitimate toughness. It meant that the old values Bundy had built his career on no longer mattered. The hatred here was existential. Bundy was watching his entire philosophy become obsolete. He was seeing the industry reject everything he represented. Bigger, stronger, more imposing wrestlers were being passed over in favor of smaller, more athletic performers. The monster heel was dying. The super heavyweight division was becoming irrelevant. And Shawn Michaels, with his boyish good looks and his high-flying offense, embodied this transformation. Every time Michaels held that championship belt, Bundy felt it like a personal attack. It was proof that men like King Kong Bundy were no longer valued. It was confirmation that the business had moved on without him. And it fueled a resentment that burned until the end of his life. Bundy could not watch Michaels wrestle without seeing his own obsolescence reflected back at him. Every successful title defense was a reminder that the industry preferred speed over size. Every main event was proof that charisma and athleticism trumped raw physical intimidation. And every time Michaels smiled for the cameras, every time he posed and celebrated, Bundy saw it as mockery, as the business laughing at him and everything he represented. The anger was constant. The bitterness never faded. Because Shawn Michaels was not just a wrestler Bundy disliked. He was the symbol of everything that had gone wrong. He was the proof that Bundy's time had passed and would never return. Number 4 takes that philosophical hatred and amplifies it. Bret Hart was everything Bundy despised about the new generation, but worse. At least Shawn Michaels had charisma and star power. At least he could work a crowd. But Bret Hart, in Bundy's view, was nothing special. He was technically sound, but boring. He was respected, but lacked the larger-than-life presence that defined true champions. And when Hart became WWF champion, Bundy's fury reached new heights. He called Hart a horrible world champion. He mocked his size relentlessly, referring to him as the little hitter. He attacked Hart's ego, claiming it was out of control. He even went so far as to call Hart a total piece of garbage, using language that left no doubt about the intensity of his contempt. This was personal in a way that his criticism of Michaels was not. Bundy did not just disagree with Hart's push. He hated the man himself. He saw Hart as everything wrong with wrestling distilled into a single performer. Too small, too technical, too concerned with work rate instead of presence. Hart represented the triumph of the Canadian style over the American super heavyweight tradition. He represented the idea that championships should go to the best workers rather than the most imposing figures. And Bundy rejected this completely. In his mind, Hart's success was a betrayal of everything professional wrestling was supposed to be. Wrestling was about larger-than-life characters. It was about spectacle. It was about men who looked like they could tear you apart with their bare hands. Hart looked like a mechanic. He wrestled like a technician. And when he stood in the ring holding the WWF Championship, Bundy saw it as proof that the business had completely lost its way. The hatred was also deeply self-referential. Every time Bundy criticized Hart's size, he was implicitly defending his own value. Every time he mocked Hart's technical style, he was arguing that his own power-based offense was superior. Every time he attacked Hart's ego, he was projecting his own insecurities about being passed over and forgotten. Hart's success highlighted Bundy's failures. It proved that the industry no longer wanted what Bundy offered. And that realization, that fundamental rejection, poisoned everything Bundy thought about modern wrestling. He could not watch Hart's matches without feeling angry. He could not see Hart's accomplishments without feeling cheated, because every moment of Hart's glory was a reminder of Bundy's irrelevance. Every five-star match Hart had was proof that technical wrestling mattered more than size. Every accolade Hart received was evidence that the business valued things Bundy could not provide, and so the hatred grew, fed by insecurity, nourished by bitterness, until it it consumed any ability Bundy might have had to appreciate Hart's genuine talent and accomplishments. Number 3 brings us to the man who held all the power. Vince McMahon was not just a promoter or a booker, he was the owner of the WWF. He controlled every aspect of every wrestler's career. And when King Kong Bundy crossed him, the consequences were devastating and permanent. The incident that destroyed Bundy's relationship with McMahon happened in late 1987 or early 1988. Bundy filmed a commercial for a computer company called Vendex, promoting their Head Start Explorer model. Bundy believed the commercial would have limited distribution. He thought it would be a small regional advertisement that would not attract attention. He was catastrophically wrong. The Head Start campaign exploded nationally. Full-page advertisements appeared in USA Today, Time, Newsweek, and Sports Illustrated. King Kong Bundy's face was everywhere, selling computers while under contract to the WWF. And he had not asked permission. He had not cleared it with the office. He had acted independently, assuming it would not matter. When Vince McMahon discovered the unauthorized commercial, his reaction was swift and brutal. The heat was immediate. Bundy was told that the commercial was the kiss of death to his career. Those were the exact words. Not a setback, not a mistake that could be fixed. The kiss of death. McMahon froze Bundy out. The push stopped. The bookings dried up. Bundy took what he thought would be a brief hiatus, planning to return when the heat cooled. But McMahon never forgave him. That brief hiatus stretched into 5 years. 5 years of his prime. 5 years when he should have been earning main event money. Gone. Destroyed by a single commercial. The hatred Bundy felt toward McMahon was rooted in this betrayal. Not betrayal by McMahon, but by the system itself. Bundy believed he had done nothing wrong. He had seized an opportunity to make money. He had taken a booking that paid well. He had acted like an independent contractor, which is technically what wrestlers were. But McMahon did not see it that way. McMahon controlled his talent completely. He owned their images. He dictated what they could and could not do outside the ring. And when Bundy violated that control, when he appeared in a massive national campaign without permission, McMahon made an example of him. The punishment was designed to send a message to every other wrestler on the roster. Cross Vince McMahon and your career is over. Defy the corporate structure and you will be erased. Bundy never recovered. When he finally returned to wrestling, his moment had passed. The industry had moved on, and he spent the rest of his life bitter about what that commercial had cost him. The resentment ran deeper than just lost income. It was about power, about control, about the realization that no matter how big you were, no matter how valuable you thought you were, Vince McMahon could destroy you with a single decision. Bundy had believed he had leverage. He had believed his size and his monster persona made him irreplaceable. The computer commercial incident proved he was wrong, and that knowledge, that understanding of his own powerlessness within the system, ate away at him for decades. Every time he thought about his career, he came back to that moment, to that decision to film a commercial without permission, to the 5 years he lost because of it, and the hatred for McMahon, for the man who had the power to end his career with a word, never diminished. Number 2 brings us to the biggest star in wrestling history. Hulk Hogan was everything King Kong Bundy was not. He was charismatic, he was beloved by fans, he was the perfect corporate representative for Vince McMahon's national expansion. And according to Bundy, he was grotesquely overpaid. The source of Bundy's hatred for Hogan was primarily financial. Bundy claimed that Hogan received $1 million for main eventing WrestleMania 1. The story goes that Hogan was initially paid $500,000. Then he walked into Vince McMahon's office, held up the check, and demanded another $500,000, and McMahon gave it to him. Whether this story is completely accurate is debatable, but Bundy believed it, and it colored everything that came after. 1 year later, Bundy headlined WrestleMania 2. He challenged Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship inside a steel cage. It was the biggest match of his career, the culmination of his monster push, the moment when he should have been rewarded for months of hard work. And according to Bundy, his payoff was nowhere near what Hogan had received the previous year. The exact figure is unknown, but the disparity was enough to fuel decades of resentment. Bundy believed he was essential to the WWF's success. He believed his role as the ultimate monster heel was just as valuable as Hogan's role as the conquering hero. He believed he deserved compensation that reflected his importance. Instead, he felt exploited, used, taken advantage of by a system that concentrated all the wealth at the very top while everyone else fought for scraps. The hatred for Hogan was both personal and symbolic. Personally, Bundy saw Hogan as the beneficiary beneficiary of an unfair system. Hogan was the golden boy, the chosen one, the performer who could do no wrong in Vince McMahon's eyes. He received the push, the money and the glory, while Bundy did the hard work of making him look good. Symbolically, Hogan represented everything wrong with the WWF's corporate structure. He was proof that the business was not a meritocracy. Success was not about who worked the hardest or who was the most skilled. It was about who fit McMahon's vision, who could sell merchandise, who could be the face of a national brand. And Bundy, despite his size and his presence and his legitimate heat, was never going to be that person. So he seethed. He watched Hogan make millions while he struggled to negotiate fair payoffs. He watched Hogan become a cultural icon while he was reduced to comedy matches with midget wrestlers. And every smile on Hogan's face, every title defense, every main event felt like a personal insult. The financial disparity was not just about money, it was about value, about recognition, about the fundamental unfairness of a system where one man could demand double his pay and receive it, while another man could headline the same event series and be told to accept whatever he was offered. Bundy saw himself as Hogan's equal in importance. He believed that without a credible monster heel, Hogan's heroic persona meant nothing. He believed that his willingness to be the villain, to absorb the hate from crowds, to make Hogan look good, deserved the same financial reward that Hogan received. But the business did not work that way. It never had. The hero always made more than the villain. The face always received better treatment than the heel. And Bundy, despite understanding this intellectually, could never accept it emotionally. The resentment festered. Every time he saw Hogan on television, every time he heard about another big payday or another movie role or another endorsement deal, the hatred grew stronger, until Hulk Hogan became more than just a former opponent. He became the symbol of everything Bundy believed was wrong with professional wrestling. Number 1 is the most tragic entry on this entire list, because after all the grudges, after all the conflicts, after all the hatred directed at colleagues and promoters and bookers, the person King Kong Bundy hated most was himself. His longtime trainer, Larry Sharpe, the man who knew him better than almost anyone, provided the most damning testimony about Bundy's character. Sharpe said that Bundy was such an angry person all the time. He would wake up angry, and if there was nothing to be mad about, he would be mad about that. This was not a man who became bitter due to circumstances. This was a man whose fundamental nature was rage. The disappointments of his career did not create his anger. They simply gave it targets. Bundy's entire life was defined by what he was against rather than what he was for. He was against Hulk Hogan's success, against Vince McMahon's control, against Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels' new style, against the comedy booking, against the financial exploitation, against everything and everyone. But underneath all that external rage was a deeper truth. He was angry at himself, angry that he was not bigger, not more successful, not more valued, angry that despite his size and his presence and his legitimate toughness, the business had decided he was not worth building around. Angry that his moment came and went so quickly, replaced by smaller, flashier, more marketable performers. And most of all, angry that he could not let it go. The tragedy of King Kong Bundy is that his anger became his identity. He was known for his bitterness, for his shoot interviews where he tore down everyone around him, for his inability to find peace with his career or his place in wrestling history. He headlined WrestleMania. He main evented against the biggest star in the industry. He had opportunities that thousands of wrestlers would have killed for, but he could not appreciate any of it, because underneath every accomplishment was the knowledge that it was not enough, that he deserved more, that he had been cheated, and that anger, that perpetual dissatisfaction, consumed him completely. The hatred directed at himself manifested in how he treated others. When he attacked Little Beaver, he was really attacking his own humiliation. When he criticized Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, he was really mourning his own obsolescence. When he exposed Randy Savage's shoplifting, he was really trying to drag someone else down to his level of bitterness. Every grudge, every shoot interview rant, every public settling of old scores was Bundy externalizing his self-loathing. He could not fix what was broken inside himself, so he tried to break everything around him. He could not find success or peace, so he denied it to others through his words. He could not be the champion he believed he deserved to be, so he tore down the champions who actually achieved that status. Larry Sharpe's observation reveals the core truth. Bundy's anger was not situational, it was constitutional. He was built to be angry, and professional wrestling, with its politics and its exploitation and its broken promises, gave him a lifetime supply of reasons to justify that anger. But if it had not been wrestling, it would have been something else. If it had not been Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon and Bret Hart, it would have been different names. because the anger was always there, searching for targets, demanding expression, refusing to be satisfied. King Kong Bundy could have had a different career. He could have been remembered fondly. He could have found peace with his accomplishments. But to do that, he would have had to stop being angry. And that was the one thing he could never do, because beneath the monster persona, beneath the 5-count gimmick, beneath the walking condominium nickname, there was just a man who hated the world because he hated himself. And that hatred, more than any opponent or booker or corporate decision, was what truly destroyed his career and his legacy. The real enemy was never Hulk Hogan counting his money. It was never Vince McMahon protecting his business interests. It was never Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels representing a new era. The real enemy was the voice inside Bundy's head that told him he was never good enough. That told him he deserved more. That told him the world had conspired against him. That voice was there when he woke up in the morning. It was there when he went to sleep at night. It was there in every interview, every conversation, every quiet moment when he had time to think about his career and what might have been. And that voice, more than any physical opponent, was undefeated. It beat him every single day of his life. This is the roster of resentment, 10 figures who drew King Kong Bundy's fury. But in the end, they were all just reflections in the mirror of his own disappointment. The real enemy was never in the ring. It was never in the corporate office. It was always inside him, burning, consuming, destroying everything good until only the anger remained. That was the true tragedy of King Kong Bundy. Not that he failed to reach the top, but that when he got there, when he stood across from Hulk Hogan in front of millions at WrestleMania 2, he could not see it as success, only as evidence of how much more he deserved. And that hunger, that bottomless need for validation that never came, turned a monster heel into something much sadder. A man whose greatest feud was with his own demons. A war he fought every day. A war he could never win, because you cannot defeat an enemy that lives inside your own mind. You cannot escape hatred when it is part of your fundamental nature, and you cannot find peace when anger is the only thing that makes you feel alive. King Kong Bundy died in 2019, but in many ways, the man he could have been died much earlier. Killed by bitterness, destroyed by resentment, consumed by a hatred that started with others, but always, inevitably, circled back to himself.